Okay, so this is really doing a cable, and this is the center cable of the all over cable pattern for the bag. And I figured if any of the cables are going to give you a hard time on this, it's going to be this guy. So I've gone ahead and I've worked with the first two rows of my chart. And you're going to notice that your square is a background of reverse stockinette, right? Which just means that the purl side is considered the right side. And then where the cables are going to go is done in stockinette. So it's pretty easy to tell where the cables are going to start. So we're going to go ahead, we're starting on row 3. We're going to purl our first 5 stitches across. 2, 3, 4, and 5. You're going to want a cable needle for the next bit, or like I have a, just a smaller size or about the same size, other double pointed needle, and that will work as well. Because apparently even though I'm an owner of a yarn shop, I still can't find a cable needle when I want one. This first cable that we're doing is a right-leaning cable. It's called a 3-3 RC, or right cable. If I want my cable to lean to the right, that means the stitches that I want to move are actually going to be the second set of stitches on the needle. And you can always tell how many stitches are involved in the cable. They say 3-3, which means it's 3 stitches held to the front and 3 stitches to the back, right? So that's going to be these 3 and those 3. So my first 3 stitches, I'm going to go ahead and slip purl-wise onto a cable needle. And for a right-leaning cable, I'm going to hold those 3 stitches to the back. I'm then going to knit my next 3 stitches off my knitting needle. And then I'm going to grab that cable needle, and the reason I like using like a double point or the cable needles that we usually sell in the store is I can knit right off them. I hate having to like put them back on the needle and blah blah blah, but you all know I'm lazy. Okay, so there you go. That's my right leaning cable. My next one is going to be my left leaning cable. So those first 3 are going to come off the needle, and I'm going to hold them to the front of my work. And then I'm going to knit those next 3 stitches right off my cable needle, or right off my knitting needle, pardon me. And then I'm going to grab my cable needle without twisting it or doing anything crazy. And I'm going to hold it up here. I'm going to grab my yarn again, which I dropped for some crazy reason. And I'm going to go ahead and knit those 3 right off. Now, what I think people who struggle a little bit with cables, what scares them is they have a needle just dangling there in the back, and they're a little worried about losing those stitches. Don't really worry too much about it. They're really not going to go anywhere. If need be, you could always throw one of the little stoppers on an end if you're completely paranoid about it, and that'll help. So that is right. Isn't it beautiful? Actually, you really can't tell anything about cables until you get about 3 or 4 rows past it. But it's going to feel kind of double thick and weird. So when I come to my next wrong side row, I'm going to knit my first few, right? Because we're always going to work a wrong side row in the opposite direction. And I'm going to work them opposite as I see them. So if I see purl stitches here, to get a purl stitch on the right side, I have to knit them. So I'm going to knit my first 5. And luckily, these are all done in columns, so it's not like you have to think super hard about this. And I'm going to purl across that little center section that is stockinette on the other side. And as we do that, and again, I'm just going to do this in my style because you guys know how to knit and purl. There's nothing special to this. Okay, and 2 more of those little purls, right? 3 more purls apparently. And now I'm going to knit across those last few. As we get 1 row past a cable, you are going to be able to see a little bit more what's happening there. And you are almost always going to end up with this little hole there, and that is going to be okay. So please do not think you've done anything wrong. I'm going to go ahead and get back up to right here to where we can do that next cable row, and I will come back to you there. Okay, so I've gone ahead and knitted up through row 10, and you can see here how the cables are creating this kind of wreath sort of effect with a depression in the middle. This is one of my favorite cables. It's really fun. But I thought I would show you also one other thing, because sometimes in these little line drawings, the cables can be hard to see. So it's not a bad idea to look for the ones that go the same direction and highlight them in that direction so that you can see what they are, and then color code them, right, with your key that's down below. And I tend to do the direction that the cables lean when I mark them. so that it's a visual memory for me or a reminder for me as well. Because you'll see that these are reversed, because what we're actually making is a bit of a circle. So now I'm going to go ahead and work row 11 with you. And so we're going to purl 5. So 1, 3, and 5. And you can see it's really easy to tell exactly when you're going to stop purling because you've got that nice little reverse stockinette area. And now we're into our cable area. So this time I want my cable to lean to the left. So that means I want these 3 stitches to hang to the front because I want them to cross over in these 3 stitches that are going to be in the back. So I'm going to slip purlwise 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to hold those guys to the front, and then I'm going to go ahead and just knit 1, 2, and 3 straight off of there. I'm going to go ahead and grab that cable needle up in the front, again making sure I haven't twisted anything, so I'm taking them off in the same order. I'm knitting those 3. So now we're going to come over here and now we're going to do our right leaning. So that means in a right leaning cable, it means the back, the last 3 stitches that are involved in the cable are the ones that you want to have in the front. So that means my first 3, I'm going to take off and I'm going to hold those little guys to the back. Bring my yarn around. I'm going to knit the next 3 stitches from my needle. And if you tighten that second stitch as you're doing it, that will help close that gap in there, just a little helpful hint. And then I'm going to pick up my cable needle from the back, flippy-do it around, and I'm going to knit those 3 straight from the cable needle. My cable's now complete, and I'm going to go ahead and purl to the end, or until the next chart, as the case may be for what you guys are doing. Right there, and then you can see that that little circle gets closed. And that is how to do the right and left leaning 3x3 cables. Thanks.